In this edition of In Person, Cornwall Online Radio's Mike Dees talks with internationally acclaimed author Frances Oliver about what drew her to live in Penwith and how the ancient magical landscape has influenced her writing. He spoke with her following the launch of her second book of memoirs at Morrup Private Library in Penzance.
My guest Frances Oliver was born in Vienna before the outbreak of the Second World War. The daughter of pioneering psychoanalysts trained by Sigmund Freud, in 1938 the family escaped the German invasion of Austria. Travelling via Italy and Switzerland, they eventually settled in the American Midwest. After graduating from university in the 1950s, she met and married the Swiss-American writer Duck Schneider, who spent much of his childhood here in Cornwall. They moved to England, where she took up writing, producing a steady stream of contemporary novels. More recently, she has published two entertaining and unusual memoirs, Girl in a Freudian Slip and Jaundiced in Antalya. Welcome, Frances.
Hello, Mike. Thanks for inviting me on the program.
You and your husband moved around extensively for 20 years. Where's home for you?
Everywhere and nowhere. We lived in many different places. In England, France, Switzerland, Turkey, Austria, and Greece. And we had a momentous overland journey by Land Rover to Pakistan and Afghanistan. We had some wonderful adventures. My husband grew up in London and had all his childhood holidays in Cornwall. And following our marriage, we spent many happy times here. After his death in 1978, as a result of medical procedures gone wrong, I decided to move here with our young daughter. We stayed on. It's been 30 years now.
Your collected short stories have an occult theme.
Yes, Cornwall being an ancient and ghostly as well as a beautiful place is the ideal place for me to write.
Your two best-selling memoirs, which I referred to in my introduction, came out in 2005 and 2009 respectively. The first, Girl in a Freudian Slip, relates to your life up to the age of 16. What did it mean for your family to flee from the occupation in Vienna to a new life in Detroit?
It was very dramatic. America had strict quotas for foreign nationals. We had a long wait for entry visas and were afraid of not finding asylum anywhere else. Eventually, we did get to America, and my parents established a psychoanalytic practice. I talk about this period in the book.
What were your interests as a young girl?
Oh, the natural world, animals in general, and horses in particular, and books. I was always reading. I knew even then I wanted to write, but initially poetry was my dream.
Your family escaped the hot Midwest summers by vacationing in the northeastern state of Vermont.
For Verena, my sister, and me, this was the high point of our year. Seeing wild animals like deer, porcupines, even wildcats and bear. And walking in the mountains and horseback riding, it was complete paradise.
Jaundiced in Antalya, the second memoir, covers the time in the 1960s when you, by now in your early 30s, travelled with your husband beyond Europe, driving overland to Turkey and Afghanistan.
We'd been living in Switzerland, where Dux was working in publishing, and I was working for a Hollywood screenwriter living there. We developed a passion for the mountains and took a climbing course. After gaining some experience, but still novice mountaineers, we set off to find some unclimbed mountains in eastern Turkey.
And Jaundiced in Antalya records your adventures amongst the nomadic mountain people when you were one of the first female mountaineers in that region, I imagine.
Oh, yes. That was a way of life that has now undoubtedly changed, both in eastern Turkey and Afghanistan, overwhelmed by civil war and war. I also think about the ancient monuments we saw, like the great Buddhas in Afghanistan, wantonly destroyed by the Taliban.
Twice in recent years you've been honoured with residencies at Hawthornton Castle in Scotland, where you joined a select group of international writers.
Hawthornton is a writer's retreat set up by the Heinz family. At my last stay there, I worked on new short stories.
Anything else in progress?
Yes, I'm doing research for a historical novel set in a Swiss thermal spa, and I'm adapting 3 short stories for radio.
Many listeners know you as a tireless, and some would say tiresome, campaigner on environmental issues through your many years' work as chair of West Cornwall Friends of the Earth.
Yes, I'm deeply concerned about our reckless consumerist society, and our ever-increasing population is exhausting the planet's ability to sustain us and also other forms of life.
Frances Oliver, good luck with all your projects. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Mike.
You've been listening to In Person, brought to you by Mike Dees, with studio direction by Julian Rowe. In Person is a Hearsay production for Cornwall Online Radio. Frances Oliver's books are available in bookshops.